Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carrie, and this is where I talk about making pretty things, usually with pretty string. And if you've been following me this year, you know that I have been working a lot with stranded colorwork. I've already completed 2 stranded colorwork projects this year, and I started on my 3rd one, which is this. It doesn't look like much yet. It's just the brim and some beginning stripes, but this is going to be the Golem hat by Wooly Wormhead. It features kind of this robot, what I think of as a robot motif. I think it's super cute. However, there is a challenge with this hat because these involve longer floats that need to be trapped. And there's different techniques that you can use for trapping floats, and some techniques are better in different situations than others. But for this hat and this pattern, I'm going to use a technique called Ladderback Jacquard. So hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, give this video a thumbs up, and knit with me as I show you how to use Ladderback Jacquard. So I first learned about Ladderback Jacquard a couple of years ago, and it's actually a technique that's adapted from machine knitting. And it is like chef's kiss. It is such a great way to trap floats, especially when you have a long series of floats, like in this pattern, March Flowers by Carrie Bullock Ozcan Designs. And of course, throughout the video, whatever patterns I might be mentioning, there will be links to them down in the description box, as well as links to other materials or resources I think that will be helpful for you. Some of these will have clearly marked affiliate links. If you if you use one of my affiliate links to make a purchase, then I might earn a small commission, which helps support my channel. So if you utilize affiliate links, or you leave me a super thanks or a tip through Buy Me Coffee, thank you so much. It is so greatly appreciated. And now back to the important thing, which is the knitting. Now the thing about this pattern is you can tell just by looking at the front of the work that there are long floats happening. A long float is usually a float that has to carry along the back of the work for more than 4 or 5 stitches, like more than an inch would be considered a long float, and you need to trap it in some way. The challenge with trapping floats when you have a lot of long floats kind of stacked on top of each other is trapping the floats in such a way that they don't end up appearing to the front of the work. You don't want your floats to appear to the front. You just want to see the pretty picture motif. And the traditional way of trapping floats, it can be a real challenge, kind of distributing the traps in such a way that they don't stack up on top of each other. The great thing with Ladderback Jacquard is that you can stack up trapped floats behind the work and it not show. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you look at the back of this, right here where this pink is, you'll see this column of stitches that are going up the back. Now these stitches running up the back of the work are the floats, and they've just been trapped in this kind of webbing to the back of the work that keeps these floats really nicely controlled and managed, and in such a way that they in no way show to the front of the work. Here's the other glove, and you can see, like, you wouldn't see any, you don't notice any floats to the front. I can stretch the fabric, and you'd be hard pressed to see where any of those floats are. So it's a really great technique, and it is shockingly simple to do. If you could do an increase, if you can do a make one, you can do Ladderback Jacquard. So enough with the preface, let's jump into how we utilize this technique. All right, so here I am, and I'm ready to work my first row of the Colowork, and I'm now to a section where I'm going to have 7 stitches, so I'm going to trap my float in the middle of that. So 1, 2, 3, and here is where I'm going to trap my float. All right, so to set up the ladder back, what I'm going to do is I need to do an increase, right? So I'm going to bring my working yarn to the front of the work. Then I'm going to bring my stranded yarn to the front of the work, okay? So I'm going to then take my stranded color that I'm working right now, and I'm going to just do a backward loop onto my right needle. All right, so I've made a backward loop onto my needle, like I'm casting on a stitch. Then I'm going to take my working color and I'm going to bring it back to the back of the work. And notice when I do that, the working color is in front of the stranded color. That's actually important throughout this process, is that when you're having your floats, you want to make sure that your working color is in front of your stranded color at these trap locations. All right, now I'm just gonna knit 1, 2, 3, 4, and yeah, that's my 7 stitches. And now I'm just do my color change. Right. And boom, I've set up my first Ladderback Jacquard. It is that simple. I will do it again. Bring my yarn, my working yarn to the front, bring my stranded yarn to the front, and backward loop. And then bring both yarns to the back of the work again. So here I am at the end of this round, and I have 4 more stitches left. And when you're transitioning from one needle to the next, like I'm about to do, this spot where the strand goes across the back of the fabric where that transition is can be a tension problem. A lot of times the strand won't carry across the fabric, but because a lot of times it is actually creating a corner, it'll go straight across and you end up with a tight spot and puckering. I have found that utilizing a ladder back at those points of transitions is a really useful way of dealing with that tension problem, because now your stranded color work isn't going to be going over quite such a large gap. So I'm going to do a ladder back right here at the beginning of my round to trap floats there. And that way I'm able to avoid any tension problems at that transition spot. It's just a really nice, elegant way of dealing with that sort of situation. I am now at the beginning of my round. Next, I'm going to show you how you continue working your ladder backs once they're established. So my first round of color work, I've established where my ladder back locations are and where I'm going to trap my floats. So this second round, you'll see how the floats get trapped until it is time to discontinue the ladder backs. So I'm gonna just start this row. I'm gonna just work to where the ladder back is. So here I am to my first ladder back. So to make sure that this falls to the back of the work and it doesn't get to the seam to the front, we are going to purl into where I have this little casted on stitch. To do this, I'm going to bring first my working yarn comes to the front, then my stranded color work comes to the front. That's very important. Whenever you're doing ladder back, it's always first the working color, then the stranded color. And I'm going to do my purl stitch here. Go. So now I've purled, and now I'm going to take my working yarn and I'm going to bring it to the back of the work. And notice again, my working yarn that I am knitting with is going to be in front of this ladder back, and that's very important. You always want the working yarn to be in front of the ladder back. That way, if your work stretches, you're going to see the working yarns running the thread and not the stranded work. You want that stranded float to be hiding.
I thought I'd jump forward to the future and show you what it looks like when you get the stranded work in front. Right there, you can see that red blip, and that red blip exists because I did not have the working yarn in front. So how do I fix this? Well, it's actually pretty simple. All I really need to do is basically drop the ladder back. So I take the stitch off of my needle and I just drop that all the way down, and then that stranded work pops out from behind the blue one, and then I can take my crochet hook and use that to ladder back up like I'm repairing a dropped stitch. So if you do get the wrong strand in front, you can fix this while the ladder back is still active. There will come a point where we have to end our ladder backs, at which point this type of repair becomes a little bit more complicated. But here you can see that it is now fixed and my strands aren't showing.
Where you end your ladder backs is somewhat a judgment call based on the motifs. You might have it where the entire pattern you are doing ladder backs up until it is time to end all your color work, right? Other times you might end a ladder back because in a particular section you just don't need them anymore. You're not going to have long floats in that section anymore, or it might be a few rows before you have long floats in that area again and you decide to end your ladder backs. And you can always establish new ladder backs anywhere in your pattern that you want. You can begin and end ladder backs all throughout the project. It's not a big deal. But how do you end your ladder backs? It involves decreasing. So simple. So here is my ladder back stitch right there. That's the red contrasting color. So to end my ladder back, I'm going to do a knit two together with my working strand. And that's it. The ladder back is just ended. It has disappeared to the back of the work. It is all done with a simple knit two together. Look how gorgeous that looks. So gorgeous. And I stretch and you don't see the contrasting color at all. It's so brilliant. It is important when you are ending your ladder back and you're using a knit two together, you're going to knit two together the purl stitch that is your ladder back with the stitch to the left. That way the front of the work, that stitch that should be to the front of the work, falls over the front and the ladder back gets hidden behind the work. Right there you can see the back. That's where I trapped, that's where I ended the one ladder back with that knit two together. So ending your ladder backs is super, super easy. It's just a knit two together with the purl stitch of your ladder back with the stitch to the left. I'm coming to this third row and actually I'm gonna run into a situation where I'm going to need to trap a float, but I may not want to utilize Ladderback Jacquard for this. Ladderback Jacquard is great when you have a series of long floats stacked up on top of each other. But sometimes, a lot of times, you will have stranded colorwork patterns where maybe you just have one spot with a long float and then maybe Ladderback Jacquard isn't the greatest choice. For example, on this project here, if you've been following my channel, this project looks familiar. The S'mores Cowl by Carrie Pollock Ozken Design. This is more in the tradition of Fair Isle, where you have small graphical techniques and not a lot of long floats in between them.
But there came a point in this project where there was one row that had a long float.
And I needed to trap a float. And I didn't use Ladderback Jacquard for that. I used another trap technique, one that's like very traditional. So where Ladderback Jacquard is much more useful is in colorwork techniques that are more from the Scandinavian tradition, like the March Flowers Club, which also happens to be by Carrie Pollock Ozken Design. In the Scandinavian tradition, you find a lot more pictorial motifs like reindeer and trees, and this with its flowers is more of an example of that. And with that sort of technique, you are going to get those longer strands. and longer floats stacked up against each other. And that is when Ladderback Jacquard is really at its best. Sometimes in a pattern, it's a good idea to combine trapping float techniques, because, you know, there's not one technique necessarily to rule them all, and you sometimes have to use judgment whether you want to use a ladderback or you want to use some other technique to trap your floats. Now, I've done a lot of talking today. I'd love to hear from you. If you've been working on a project while watching this video, I'd love to hear about it. If you have any questions, or if there's something that I missed. Is there a suggestion that you have about managing floats, trap techniques, whatever it may be? I'd love to hear about it down in the comments below. Because one of the great things is that we do get to have a conversation here on the YouTubes. For me, I'm going to be continuing along working on this project over the next couple of weeks. I hope to have it finished relatively soon. I have a trip coming up and I might actually travel with this. If you'd like to follow my progress on this project or other things that I am working on, please make sure to follow me on my various social medias. I am at Carrie Craft Geek on all the social media that I'm on. You can find my social medias down in the description box, of course, along with links to the various patterns that I've talked about today, and links to resources that I think are helpful from today's video. Once again, some of these will have clearly marked affiliate links, and if you use any of my affiliate links to shop, and then I end up with a small commission, thank you so much. It really does help support my channel. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If so, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your other knitting friends. Liking videos, sharing videos, commenting on videos are all great ways that help YouTube know that this is a great space for other fiber artists to hang out. And it really does help kind of support this growing community that we have. If you have not already, if you are new to my channel, please make sure that you are subscribed and you hit the notification bell. Clicking the notification bell will let you know whenever I upload a new video or start a live stream. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you have a wonderful day, evening, weekend, weeknight, whenever you may be watching this. And as always, happy health and happy making. Bye.